Now, moving on from the ultra-modern, let's look back in time a little bit. Here's Webscape with this week's Webscape. Sevi, over to you.
Thanks, Stephen. Well, all the sites this week either have a retro feel or a nostalgic look. So let's start with toonhound.com. It takes us back to some of the great British cartoons, animations, comic strips and puppet creations. I'd say this site's mainly for adults, as it's short on images and streaming media to keep the kids interested. It's actually more of an e-cyclopedia, an animator's resource, giving summaries and analysis of each cartoon and the creators behind the animation. Favourites such as the 1975 Mr. Men and Little Miss series appear with detailed credits and commentary on how the animation has developed over time. A lot of effort has been put into interesting and relevant links, such as these ones for the famous puppet animation Thunderbirds, and the reviews are also thoughtful and informative. I'd say the only thing that lets this site down a little is its lack of multimedia, which would really engage you in this nostalgic media experience. After all, it's about watching cartoons. If you know of any other animation sites out there, drop me a mail at the usual address. It's clickonline@bbc.co.uk. Now, if you're one of those who resist the pleasures of the PS2, Xbox and GameCube, why not try the Atari? Bet you haven't heard that name in a while. Well, the Atari community is alive and kicking, and this site is for fans and newbies alike. The Atari Historical Society has been created to preserve the history of this video games and console behemoth. This boldly designed site offers information on all the consoles and gaming systems, from the very first home console, affectionately named Pong, to the famous Atari Video Computer System, or VCS, which dominated the computer gaming market. The editorial is really interesting, and it's clear the writer is passionate about Atari. Take a look at the arcade system's development, from the basic 1970s models to the late 90s super systems, which could be linked together for the ultimate in high-speed multiplayer mayhem. As ever, there's also an Atari forum, and judging from the staggering number of posts, this is one dedicated bunch of fans. Now, would you recognise a hoax when you see or hear one? Well, put yourself to the test at a site recommended by Jal Desai, museumofhoaxes.com. Let's get my grumble out the way first. The site isn't particularly dynamic, and the designers could rethink the site navigation, but the content makes up for the lack of design pizzazz. The hoaxes in the post-2000 gallery are recent enough to make you chuckle that you ever believed them. I certainly thought a few were true stories when I first saw them. The site describes the hoax and then debunks the myths surrounding it. It exposes how it actually became a hoax and how, spread by web, TV or newspaper, it gained its notoriety. Our recent spam show covered the troubling subject of chain emails, and you'll find a great example at the site. The Gorgeous Guy hoax shows how people have used the net to create self-serving publicity vehicles in front of huge audiences. On a lighter note, the historical galleries are a glorious ragbag of funny stories detailing well-known hoaxes going as far back as the 17th century. This rumour in 1766, which made headlines in London newspapers, spread the news that giants had been found in Argentina. Finally, the photo gallery shows how easy it is to fool people using image manipulation. Now, from one set of lies to another, the Museum of Unworkable Devices is a curious site. It celebrates inventions that simply don't work. Many of these devices were dreamt up centuries ago and are still fascinating today. The Gallery of Illusory Art has examples which just don't stick to the laws of nature. You may need to stare at these images for a while before you realise what's wrong with them. In the Hall of Machinery, animated GIFs of overbalanced wheels defy the laws of physics. The accompanying commentary explains why they can't work. And the Gallery of 3D Drawings needs to be viewed in two ways, parallel and cross-eyed. The site explains how to do both techniques and how they help you to see the illusion. And finally, from a confusing visual conundrum site to a confusing verbal one, which is irritatingly good. It's the bizarre but fun oxymoronlist.com. As the name suggests, it's a compendium of all the oxymorons, or combined contradictory terms, you can think of. You can scroll down this huge list or head straight to the top 20. The most amusing phrase I found here was tax return. Actually thinking about it for the first time made me realise how contradictory it actually is. If you have an oxymoron you use and can't see it listed, send it to the webmaster. I'd say this was a very good junk site. That's it from me. Keep sending in those suggestions.